Thanks for staying with us here on the JoyNews channel. This is the polls coming to you from our studios here in Accra. Coming up this afternoon, Special Prosecutor Seizure is worried that his office could become a breeding ground for, quote, pathologically corrupt staff. We have details of a restricted letter reaching to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. We'll bring you the very latest on that shortly. We're also looking at this. The Sogah Spare Parts Dealers Association is this afternoon refuting claims by the Ghana Private Road Transport Union that the high price of spare parts is the reason they are unable to reduce transport fares. We'll engage the leadership of the group, who says members reduced the price of spare parts way back in November to help customers service their vehicles ahead of the festive holidays. We'll have the chairperson in studio later on. Also, in this bulletin, President Akufo-Addo is alleging that the government of neighboring Burkina Faso has given Russia mercenaries and has given them some money as a sort of a payback to help them fight insurgency in their country. It's all coming up on Africa Connect as we explore the implications of this revelation to Ghana at 4 p.m. on Connect, Africa Connect. It's coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. Don't forget that we have a lot happening on social media, also on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. It's all coming up right here. Please stay for details, and bless us. We'll be back shortly. And Special Prosecutor Seizure is worried that his office could become the breeding ground for, quote, pathologically corrupt staff, unquote. In a restricted letter reaching to the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, on conditions of service for staff of his secretariat, Seizure disclosed that no one in his office has been paid salaries for quite some time now, since he assumed his role in August last year. We can, of course, bring you excerpts of what it is that the Special Prosecutor has been talking about in this restricted letter intercepted by JoyNews. And excerpts talk about the fact that staff of the office, first of all, bear the responsibility for and are exposed to immense risk of policing, protecting, and safeguarding of national security, investigation of suspected criminals, prosecution of suspected criminals, enforcement of production orders, search premises, seizure of trained properties, and also keeping in custody and also managing some of these seized properties. And beyond that as well, they are also charged with the responsibility of enforcing freezing orders. And they also, in some cases, deal with penalty orders and also orders in terms of realization of property and revenue generation all at once. So in terms of the scope of the activities that some of the personnel at the Office of the Special Prosecutor operate on, these are some of the issues that he's laid out. Then he goes ahead to talk about the fact that the overriding consideration is that the staff of the Office of the Special Prosecutor should not be rendered worse off as compared to the staff of the security services. If the staff of that office are poorly remunerated, especially as compared to the staff of the security services, what we will have happening is that we'll be breeding pathologically corrupt staff at the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and the nation cannot attach much moral opprobrium to their actions, and we may not be able to insist on the expectation of integrity that the office have. So that's a serious concern that the Special Prosecutor is worried about. He's also pointing out that there's some sort of a force in the contention that staff of the flagship anti-corruption security agency of the Republic should be better paid as compared to those who are staff of the various security agencies such as the Ghana Police Service and the others. This is because, in the view of the Special Prosecutor, as stated above, the Office of the Special Prosecutor performs functions of the security services, and it has the added responsibility of preventing and repressing corruption. He believes that it's an add-on, and the activities that his officials engage in are corruption-related activities and the generation of revenue for the state. So, given the scope of activities that his officers are engaged in, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is of the view that the compensation structure of this unique anti-corruption agency must have at its bedrock a policy of preventing corruption amongst its staff through the progressive and competitive remuneration regime. These are some of the concerns of the Special Prosecutor, but Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, who spoke exclusively to JoyNews earlier today on this matter, in fact, went ahead to review that the Special Prosecutor himself has not been paid for close to 16 months.
Incredibly astonishing. I just can't believe it that the office of the Special Prosecutor is simply not functional as was expected of the legislation that created the office as part of our collective quest to combat corruption, economic criminality, and graft associated with the abuse of public processes for private personal gain. I understand that Martin Amidu has not even been paid.
Throughout the period that he was special prosecutor?
Throughout the period that he was special prosecutor. He's not been paid. Since he's left office, what is due him has not been paid to him because the Minister for Finance is determining what the conditions of service should be against the law and the regulations that establish the institution. It simply means that President Nana Akufo-Addo from day one has never ever been committed to fighting corruption. He set up the bureaucracy for the finance of it, that I have an office of the Special Prosecutor to complement the Attorney General office in fighting corruption. In any case, which matter of corruption is before the court? Which matter of corruption is before the Special Prosecutor? Many of his persons that are being investigated, very little is heard about the outcomes of those investigations. Look at what happened at the Northern Development Authority. We are not seeing any action, even though we saw culpability in what occasioned loss of money to the state and many other matters before them. So one is not surprised. It is deliberate. Is intended to weaken the Special Prosecutor and to intimidate him not to live up to his callings. You know what justices of the Court of Appeal and what their associated privileges, facilities, and benefits are, and that must be given to the office of the Special Prosecutor. I appreciate the difficulty that Kisia Jabing is functioning in that particular office. It's estimated that Ghana loses over $2 billion to corruption every other year. Matters of misappropriation, embezzlement, misapplication of funds, we just have to get serious as a country in blocking the leakages, and we need the office of the Special Prosecutor to bite and to function much more effectively. I'm profoundly disappointed in Nana Addo Dankwa and his handling of this matter, and our Committee on Constitutional Legal will take up this matter much more seriously.
Let's get more on this. Elton Brobo is JoyNews editor. Of course, he's been following all of these matters, breaking down the issues for us. Elton, let's start off with how much we're talking about in terms of absolute terms. Do we know the conditions under which the Special Prosecutor is serving, and possibly how much the state owes him as of now? It appears that we've lost Elton Broby there. We'll get the very latest from him. Let me bring in Adam Senan, who is co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption. Thank you, sir, for your time. Since you're on, I'm sure that, of course, this is coming to you as a surprise, obviously. Many of us did not know about this until now. And it appears that the matter has been on for close to 16 months. What's your take on the latest revelation?
Absolutely shocking. I mean, not in my wildest dreams would I have thought that, especially for a government that came in on the back of a very strong anti-corruption drive. You remember 2015, 2016, the flagship project initiative was the Office of the Special Prosecutor to discover that not only under the tenure of the current Mr. Kisia Jabing, but previous Amidu, the persons that occupy that office have not been paid is, I mean, shocking probably is not good enough. It's just untenable under a democracy. Absolutely untenable. And I'm wondering how come we've had 16 months of nobody identifying that officers of the Special Prosecutors Unit have not been paid. How are they supposed to do their work? You know, it's really disgraceful. It's really disgraceful. We can't be talking about democracy where basic underpinnings of what make our processes function are not happening. I mean, in any case, don't we have budgets that have been approved by Parliament? So how is it that the people who occupy those offices have not been paid?
What do you fear might be the implication for our nation? At least we know that some effort has been made by the Special Prosecutor writing on the conditions of service at least twice, in October and then earlier, before the latest letter he issued in that month. Yet the finance minister has not been able to deal with that matter. What do you suspect may be the implication for us if we don't tackle this seriously?
Well, on one hand, the credibility of this government as far as championing the cause of anti-corruption is really zilch. I mean, how can anyone expect people of that nature? And by the way, I mean, you're not talking about a task that involves, you know, very basic functions and skills. These are very technical areas where you have legal expertise, you have investigative expertise. I can't imagine how the families of these people have survived in the 16 months. The implications are clear. The Special Prosecutor himself says it, that if you're not providing competitive remuneration, you pose a risk to the individuals there being tempted or lured by persons who are so minded to try and ensure that they do not perform their functions and perform it.
And since you're bringing that point up, some say that's not a fair statement to be getting from someone who's vowed to fight corruption. I'm not sure he's tying his credentials to his salary.
No, that's not the point. He's saying that, look, I have staff, and these staff are human beings. They have needs that must be met. Basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, what have you. And if these are not being met, and you go into a place where you're going to investigate, and I mean, 8 months, 10 months, and your wife is asking you why. What's wrong with you? You come home with no money. How are we supposed to survive? School fees. You know, what you do is to put them in a position that there's a potential conflict where they might be tempted not to do the kind of quality job required of them. In any case, I don't see how anyone can function beyond 2-3 months without being paid in this economy, in this country. You know, you put our whole investigation and the Special Prosecutor's Office at risk to the extent that persons who are so minded can try and bribe and influence them. So that's a big picture.
And I just want us to go.
The whole credibility of the idea of a Special Prosecutor's Office is brought down.
I just want us to go back to a set of what it is that the Special Prosecutor has been talking about, the third and the last set of the points he's been raising. He's been raising quite a controversial statement, talking about the fact that the security agencies should not be paid same way his staff are being paid. He believes that far more money should be given to persons who serve in the office of the Special Prosecutor. It's untenable, isn't it? Particularly when you know that you're not receiving your salary.
I think that it's not controversial. The kind of grand theft, the level of the mandate required or given to that office, you are not talking about small sums of money. So if you want the persons involved in doing that type of investigation to be immune, so to speak, to the kinds of temptations and luring that persons who are engaged in dealing with cocaine and, you know, this kind of grand kinds of, appropriations, you should be thinking through the type of competitive salaries that you give them. But I don't see anything controversial about his statement at all. I think it's a statement of fact that one needs to be a lot more careful in thinking through how do you remunerate staff of such units that will be engaging and trying to, unearth information relating to persons involved in that type of criminal activity.
Adam,
So
you,
this
Adam,
is
you,
not controversial.
yeah, Adam, just hold on for us briefly because we're getting indication that, of course, Parliament is beginning to act on this. JoyNews editor Elton Brobe is also on with us, and Elton, just give us some updates on that. What's likely to happen in the coming days on this?
Well, Blazer, so what we know is that the Parliamentary Select Committee on Legal and Constitutional Matters, they have a scheduled meeting with the Finance Minister this afternoon. My information is that the meeting is somewhere around 4 p.m. where the members will try and find out from the Minister why the Special Prosecutor and his staff are yet to be paid almost 60 months after taking office. Now, this is usually one of the functions of committees of Parliament where state agencies, ministries under them appear before them to justify the budgetary estimates allocated to them by the Finance Minister. So it is usually an annual ritual. So the Office of the Special Prosecutor or the Special Prosecutor himself would also appear before the committee to justify why it should be given the allocation, which we are told is around 126 million Ghana cedis. And then if there are issues that he wants the committee to highlight before the plenary, this would be a perfect opportunity. So in terms of the Minister for Finance, his main job, as per the summons I am privy to, is to respond directly to the question why he is not releasing funds to pay the salaries of the Special Prosecutor and his staff.
That's an interesting point you're raising, but beyond the parliamentary intervention, have we been able to unravel reasons why the Special Prosecutor is still in office, irrespective of what's happening in terms of his salary and that of his staff?
So what I've picked is that they have been in touch with government. From day one, they've been pressing upon government to make funds available to the Office of the Special Prosecutor so that the office will be able to undertake its duties as enshrined in the law establishing it. Now, I do understand that beyond the payment of salaries for the Special Prosecutor and his staff, there's also a bigger issue of, money to finance their activities. So, for example, you will find out that the Special Prosecutor has been allocated a 10-story building. Now, what I've picked is that they are only using just one floor of the 10-story building. The reason being that they do not have money to retool the office, meaning they don't have the resources to put the office or the space such that it will be conducive for people to sit down there and work. So if they are not able to transform the empty space into office complex or a conducive environment for people to work, it also restricts them from recruiting, because even if you recruit the people, there's no space or there's no the environment for them to work is simply not conducive, because the finances to undertake partitioning, buy office tools, vehicles, and all those things are simply not coming. Remember, early this year, we reported about the non-release of money to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and then we were told by the Attorney General that the Special Prosecutor had been given 10 million Ghana cedis, which according to the Attorney General was even higher than he had been given by the Finance Ministry for that particular quarter. And for that reason, government was doing what it could to resource the office. But clearly, the revelation coming from the leaked document we have intercepted doesn't speak well of an organization that has been tasked with the responsibility of fighting corruption.
I'm grateful, Elton Brobe, for the latest. And Adam, let me just wrap up with you. It clearly shows that this goes beyond the conditions of service. I recall Martin Amidu, the former Special Prosecutor, talk about the same office apartment that was handed over to his team at the time. He did not see it as a viable option to operate from. But now it's becoming clear that even funds are not available to operationalize that facility.
Which is all just extremely surprising. I mean, we thought, Martin hadn't done, really, we felt that he could have done much better. And so the issue of the building, picking up the keys, getting into it. But to hear that the funding required for logistics, for equipment, for salaries is not being made available 16 months after the fact, it's just totally unacceptable. I'd like to know who actually is tracking what is going on in government. I mean, all the M&E systems that you said they put in place, is nobody recognizing that things are going wrong, and who is ensuring that a critical entity like the special prosecutor, whose mandate, by the way, helps us also ensure that resources are available to the state. This is just unacceptable, And I would like to call on all civil society organizations who are privy to this information that let this discussion not go down or off the radar until we get government to act on it. The Minister for Finance must make sure that at the moment, I hope that somebody is bowing down their head in shame. This is just so disgraceful.
What steps are we to expect? Of course, we know the citizens' movement against corruption to be vocal on this matters. Are we to expect something apart from the advocacy?
No, apart from the advocacy, I think that it is the coalitions now demanding that the ministry must take action and ensure that the funding that has already been approved. I mean, these are processes that have been gone through. So what is the difficulty? In the past, we have felt that funding for the Special Prosecutor's Office ought to be ring-fenced. There ought to be a system where you don't have a situation where the office cannot have access to its funds, and therefore that can be used as a proxy way of undermining and weakening the institution. Because if you're handling certain cases that government is not interested in, and government has, its hands on the strings, then they will use that as a way of preventing you from doing the work you ought to do. So perhaps this is a time where that discussion ought to be brought to the front better. How do we ensure that we protect institutions like that who serve as a check and balance on the excesses and the mistakes and things that government will be doing that do not promote the public good?
Very finally, you were indicating earlier that the special prosecutor is human, just as any other staff working at the office of the special prosecutor. I'm just wondering what you feel the OSP should be doing right now. Would you want him to resign?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you go home if you don't.
Why that option? Absolutely not. I think that, this was one of the things we're not too happy with Mr. Amidu about. We felt that he ought to have been bringing on board civil society voices much earlier on when he realized he was confronted with certain difficulties, and not to wait all of a sudden tell us that he was resigning. I would like to appeal to the special prosecutor, please. I think 16 months was far too long. 3 months, a quarter, maximum 6 months. This should have been brought into the public space so that well-meaning Ghanaians can join hands in ensuring that, sometimes it's not the public officer who bring the change. You've got to get citizens who understand that this matters for us, to be the voices that are being heard in the public space, as it were, putting fire under government to say, you must act on this and act immediately. So I think that this discussion ought to be put in the public space, that all of us can be part and parcel of the progress in making sure that government begins to look at this and does something about it. I don't think that we want a situation where these staff go to Christmas without anything in their pocket. That would be sad. We should start a campaign on that. The Special Prosecutor's Office and its staff should be provided the funding that they require to be able to ensure that they do their work and do it in the best interest of this country.
Okay, we'll leave it here for now. Adam Senano, co-chair of the Citizens Movement Against Corruption, grateful for your time. This afternoon, the Abossey Spare Parts Dealers Association is refuting claims by the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, that the high price of spare parts is the reason they are unable to reduce transport fares despite a reduction in fuel prices at the pumps. The association says members reduced the price of some spare parts since November to help customers service their vehicles ahead of the Christmas holidays. On your screens right now is a copy of that statement released by the spare parts dealer, SEPS. On your screens right now, it indicates that it has come to the attention of the Abossey Spare Parts Dealers Association that the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, which is GPRTU, instead of reducing the transport fares as a result of the reduction of fuel prices, has remained adamant, and they don't want to do that. They are now attributing their failure to reduce the prices of the transport fares to high prices of spare parts. It is against this background that we are holding the press conference, first of all, to let the Ghanaian public know that, of course, what they're saying is not true. So definitely they are disputing some of the claims. So let's look at some more issues they're pointing out. For the Aboso-Kai Spare Parts Dealers Association, they have over the years, as they're indicating now, as a tradition, always embarked on price reduction in every November to help customers service their vehicles for Christmas holidays. As an affiliate of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, we have responded to their press release this week to try and adjust prices to give some respite to Ghanaians as a result of the appreciation of the Ghana cedi against the US dollar. So the group is therefore asking Ghanaians to disregard, first of all, what they describe as the propaganda on the part of GPRTU, and it is waging war, and what they are, of course, they are waging war against their tradition over the years, and they believe that they are calling upon GPRTU to reduce transport fares. Let's get on to Zoom right now. Let's speak to chairperson of the Aboso-Kai Spare Parts Dealers Association, the chairperson, Clement Boateng. He's the chairperson, the national communications team member of GPRTU. Samuel Amwa is also joining us. He'll be commenting on why they're not reducing prices shortly. But I want to deal with the chair first of all. So you issued a statement. First of all, you are asking GPRTU to reduce their prices, but you clearly know that that's an association that has its own powers, and that they would have to engage government, JRTCC, before prices can be changed. Do you agree? It appears we're having challenges connecting to him. We'll get him back on Zoom. But for now, let's listen to the Sector Minister, Kweku Ofori-Asiamah, who has been defending GPRTU for maintaining the current prices of transport services.
Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompreh criticized commercial transport operators who are quick to increase transport fares when fuel prices go up, but fail to do same when prices drop.
We've often lamented about the skyrocketing price of petrol, diesel in this country. And Speaker, I must commend the government that recent times we read and we see consistent reduction in the export price of these products. And it's gratifying that the dollar is also struggling to contain the strength of the cedi. These are all good times. However, I am not too happy when the export price of these products are going down, and yet transport operators fail. I see my good friend, the minister, smiling. Transport operators don't pay a heed to this consistent reduction in the price of such products. I think going forward, we must have an arrangement to deal with this concern.
Transport Minister Kweku Ofori-Asiamah meanwhile argued that there are some other factors at play, but said his ministry is in touch with the transport operators and some reduction may be in the offing.
For transport fares, Majority Chief Whip, yes, it is true that fuel prices are coming down, and they are coming down drastically. But Mr. Speaker, in determining transport fare, there are three elements. Depreciation of our currency, which is also improving, the cost of spare parts, and cost of fuel. And if all the three factors must give an average of 10% increment of reduction before we can do so. But indeed, we have sat down with the transport operators, we are doing our final meeting. We need to go through some processes to make sure that the market survey that is done justify the decision that we are going to take. We've gone through the processes. We are meeting again tomorrow to come, but I can assure them, the Majority Chief, that definitely the transport operators will do something about it. I think that in terms of difficulty, they've been with us, and I'm sure that they will not be disappointed this time. They will indeed come out and do some reduction in terms of transport fare.
Ahead of Parliament passing the appropriation, three ministries have now had their various estimates and allocations approved by Parliament. The Roads Ministry now have 5.29 billion Ghana cedis to undertake their activities for 2023. The House has also approved 618 million Ghana cedis for the Ministry of Railways Development to also undertake its activities. And then finally, Transport Ministry have also had their estimate of 1.2 billion Ghana cedis approved. The other ministries, departments, and agencies will continue to come before next week, Wednesday, when the House will be expected to take the entire appropriation. The various committees of the House are sitting and looking at the various estimates that have been placed before them. Reporting for Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Fortunately, we have the chairperson of the Abosokan Spare Parts Dealers Association, Clement Boateng, joining us in studio. It's a good time to be talking to you, sir. You seem to be waging war against GPRTU. Is that a mild way of putting it, or I'm hyping matters here?
That is not really the case. But you see, this has always been the modus operandi of GPRTU. Whenever there is the need for them to reduce transport fares. It is true that for some time now, because of the free fall of our cedi, there has been an increase in fuel prices, and so therefore there was the need for them to also adjust their prices so that they could also stay in business. But the situation that we currently find ourselves, does not call for that. We are all of the view that the city has, started gaining some strength, and as citizens, the onus does not lie on government alone, for the rebuilding of the country. As citizens, we also have a part, to play. Building of a country is not the solely responsibility of the government. We as citizens also has a part to play. So if at a point in time our cedi has started gaining some appreciation, the onus lies on the business community, and for that matter, the traders also to...
When you look at the exchange rate now, we're trading somewhere around 10 or below, but at the time the GPRT was complaining about the increment in the spare part prices, we're ranging somewhere around 6 cedis in terms of the exchange rate.
Yeah,
so it's fair to say that even now, the situation is not as it was in the past.
Yes, that was the beginning of the year. The beginning of the year, we are all aware that the cedis rate to the dollar was 6 cedis, 20-30 pesos, thereabout. And then fast forward to September, thereabout, it was hovering around 11, 12, thereabout. And then somewhere early part of November, we had the free fall, which went up to our 15 cedis. Right. Yes, but currently, it's Bank of Ghana rate is about 10 cedis, 38 or 39 pesos, thereabouts, and it continues to gain stability. So therefore, if fuel prices have been reduced, and then the onus lies on you to also adjust your prices, you are then shifting, the goalpost.
Okay. So you're a member of GUTA, correct?
I'm the first vice president of GUTA.
Precisely, yes. And I know that so well.
Yes.
GUTA issued a statement, and I'm glad that you're here,
yes,
asking members to adjust their prices. Are you confident to say that if we go onto the market, if we go into Abosokan right now,
yes,
all of your members have complied with this directive?
Not even Abosokan. I am happy that you said I am with GUTA. Even before we even came out with the press release on Monday, some of our members had already started, reducing their waste. If you go to Opera, where we have our electrical people there, the coil of a cable used, to sell around 300 Ghana cedis. As I'm talking to you now, they have reduced it to 260, 270. You can send your reporters there to go and find out. If you go to Circle here, where we have our mobile phone people there, they have reduced their goods between 10 to 15%. If you come to Abosokan, the same thing. Today we even had a general meeting, and I was maybe your reporters were not there, even though I sent a message to Imbura to try and let some of our reporters be there. Our people were there, and when we even told them that they should, reduce their prices, are they going to do it or not? They gladly said that we are going to.
So your members agree that they will reduce prices?
Yes, they have agreed.
But it appears that you're using the other traders as a cover-up, specifically talking about spare parts.
This is what I'm saying.
How have you reduced it? Give me an example.
We have reduced it between 10 to 20%.
That much?
That much. You see,
have you communicated this to the drivers? Because possibly they may not be aware of what's happening.
That is why I'm telling you, it is their modus operandi. That is what they have been doing every day.
It appears you're just accusing them. No,
I'm not accusing them. It's the right thing that I'm saying. They have been doing this thing not today, over the years. This is what they have been doing. Whenever it is time for them to do something, they shift the goalposts and they always attribute the fault to price hike, attribute the reasons to price hikes in spare parts. And that has not been the case. Look, Abosokai, it has been our tradition that every November, every year November, we reduce our prices so that customers, can bypass and service their vehicles for the Yuletide.
Do you feel this is partly affecting your market and that's why you're coming out now?
It is, if they do that propaganda, those who don't know might think that is really what is happening. And that is why there was the need for us to come out with the press conference today, so that people will come to Abosoka and find out for themselves if really that is what is pertaining.
So you're challenging anyone, including GPRT?
I'm challenging them.
That they could come to Abosoka?
Yes, they could come to Abosoka and see if prices has not been reduced.
Let's bring in Samuel Amwa. He's a national communications team member of GPRTU. And Samuel, of course, Mr. Clement Boateng is clearly indicating to us here that prices have been reduced. So why not bring down the prices of transport fares?
Yeah, thank you very much. Good afternoon, and let me say good afternoon to your listeners and your viewers. Yes, if my brother there is saying that spare parts has been reduced, I don't know, maybe if it's just this afternoon that it has been reduced, I don't know. But from my experience, spare parts
just hold on for me briefly. Are you challenging the fact that, well, you've been there and the prices are not down?
Yes, we have not seen any reduction as I'm talking to you now. That is why I'm saying that if it's just this afternoon that they can prove to us that it has been reduced. Yeah, fine, I don't know, but from what I know, from last week till even yesterday, that some things or some items that some people bought, it tells us that it has not been reduced. But if he's saying, I overheard him saying that it has been reduced for about 20% or so.
Yeah.
But for that one, we have not experienced that.
Okay, well, let's get this clear. What do your members tell you? I mean, the drivers. What sense do you get from them? Is it the case that they've not been paid at all? I mean, they've not seen any reduction at all?
Yes, because let me pick it from engines that they normally buy.
Okay.
Let's come to shock absorbers. Let's come to lubricants. They are still the same. We've not seen any reductions on that. So if they are saying that it has been reduced and we are not reducing our transport fares, yes, we have seen some reductions on the fuel or petroleum product. But we normally see that from where we had our increment or from where we had our negotiations with the government, it has not gotten to that point. And normally, whenever we are doing our transport fare review, there are other areas that we do check before we come up with transport fare review. That is petroleum products, spare parts, lubricants, and taxes. So the fuel price, we were looking at 15.99. That is for the diesel. That if it gets to 15.99 pesos, that is where we had our negotiations with the government. Then we have come to understand that it has gotten to that point. Then we also come and check on the spare part, the reductions on the spare part, the percentage on the spare part. Then we check on lubricants. Then we also go to
are you not shifting the goalpost now? Because initially you created the impression that, well, it was up, it's down now, but we can't do anything about it because of the spare parts.
No, that is not what we are saying, that we cannot do anything about the transport fare because of the spare parts. What we are saying is, by the time we had our negotiations with the government, the spare price was around the diesel was around 15.99. That is when we had our negotiations. And it was, increased up to 23.49, and now it is coming down. So before we will also think of reducing our transport fares, normally, I always explain that our mark or our target with the government is that anytime they increase the fuel by 10% threshold, then we also, go in for transport fare increment. then we write we write to the government asking for an increment. We check on spare parts, we check on lubricant and other components before we come up with an increment. So it was increased up to 23 cedis, 49%. Then now it is coming down. That is why we are saying that if it comes down to 15.99, then we'll get to know that it has gotten to that point before we also check on that the other component. But what we were saying was that though we have seen some reductions on the fuel prices, the spare parts are still the same, lubricants are still the same, taxes are still the same, but we are still looking forward for the fuel price to come down to 15.99.
When last
we see the percentage, then we put it across. Then we also come up with a reduction.
Okay. When last did you go to Abosokai, or I mean some of your colleagues? When last did they go then, and what report do you have on that?
Can you come?
When last did you visit Abosokai, and what can you say about what's happening in the market there?
If I may get you, you are asking of the last time I visited Abosokai.
Precisely.
Hello.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yes, we normally pick this information from our members, and we also have a team that anytime there's going to be a transport fare review, we have a team that we send them to the market, that is the Abosokai market. Then they also check on the percentage, or they check on the percentage. Then they check on the lubricant. They also check on the taxes. Then they come up with a report before we also do our calculations.
Yes, that's why I'm asking about the details of that report. So what did you find out?
Come again.
What did you find out? Because the chairman of the association is here, so he'll be able to deal with the matters. What did you find out? Was it the case that
at the moment that I'm speaking now, the team has not gone out to check on that now. The reason being that the fuel price has been the major component that we normally look at before we do our calculations. And the fuel price has not gotten to where or the mark that we are expecting. That is why we've not also sent the...
You agree that if you're not reducing prices, it's fair to blame you, and that it's not the spare parts.
Come again, please.
You agree now that if we're asking for a reduction in the transport fares, and you're not doing that, we cannot lay the blame on, say, spare part dealers.
Yes. If I may get your question well, you are trying to ask that we cannot put the blames on the spare parts dealers. Is that what you are asking? Hello. Hello, are you there?
That's what I'm asking.
Yes. Okay. Yes. What we are saying is that they also have their part to play.
Oh, okay.
Since the dollar rate is coming down, okay, because they normally, go about their charge based on the dollar rate. And since the dollar rate is coming down, they have to do their part. And the fuel prices also, the BDCs and the OMCs also do their calculations based on the dollar rate. So now that it is coming down, the spare parts dealers have to do their part. Then the BDCs and the OMCs also have to do their part for the fuel price to come down to the mark that we are also expecting. Then we also know that we have gotten to a point where we also have to come up with a reduction.
Well, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. I was just wondering if you've not been to the market yet, how you are able to tell, which part really they need to play in terms of bringing the prices down, because you just told me that it's been a while since you've been to the market.
Why? That is not what I'm saying. You are asking that per our calculations. I was explaining to you that normally the fuel price, the petroleum product, has been the major component.
So you're indicating that you've not been to the market.
Our team to check on the other components.
Right.
That is exactly what I was saying.
Okay. Anyway, I would have to leave it here for now. Samuel, I want to thank you. Until Mr. Platting, clear message there from the drivers. They're not happy about what you're doing.
But you could see that he's giving a conflicting, report.
So is that not your interpretation of what's happening?
You have not been to Abosokai to check, because he rightly said that they have a team that normally goes, to the market, come out with prices which form part of their basis for price adjustment. You haven't done that. So why do you go pontificating that spare parts prices is on the higher side? You don't have to do that. And as I'm rightly telling you, we have reduced our prices.
But he's saying, well, you have a role to play in that.
We definitely have a role to play.
Yeah.
And that is why we have, come out for the reduction of prices, because in my initial comments, I told you that nation building is not the responsibility of government alone. We, as
but he says that the drivers are still complaining.
They are complaining. On what basis? Because he is saying that their team has not gone to Abosokai to really come out to say that prices has gone up. So on what basis are they saying that? Or on what basis are their drivers complaining?
I'm just wondering, what's the level of collaboration or engagement between, knowing that most of the time you have drivers coming to you to purchase your items. What's the level of engagement between your group, the spare part dealers, and GPRTU?
Well, in fact, between our association and the GPRTU, I wouldn't say we have some sort of engagement. In fact,
could that not be the problem? That's why I'm asking the question, because sometimes if you had engaged them earlier, well, we should be seeing a reduction in the transport fare.
Sometime back, I think about 10 years back, when there was the need to increase transport fares, the Ministry of Transport do call us. By then, we had something like a tripartite committee that we meet, the spare parts, the GPRTU, and then the ministry. We meet and then we come out with a price adjustment, but for reasons best known to the ministry, they have stopped engaging us, and they always engage the drivers.
GPRTU.
Yes, the GPRTU.
So that could be the problem.
Well,
not your failure to engage them.
Yes. So if the transport ministry could revive that committee and include us again, I think it will go a long way.
Okay. Let's deal with the final leg of this. The CD against the US dollar. Of course, as members of the spare parts community, you would obviously be relying on Forex to trade.
Yes.
Now it's appreciating. What should we be expecting in the coming days? Is it making your business better, and that now prices may come down?
Well, the CD started appreciating, I think, maybe about 2 weeks or 3 weeks thereabout. Right. So we are now, going to take advantage of that situation and then do our next import. So I think the next importation that will come, we should expect, I would say, a drastic reduction in prices.
At the time, you were asking for government to intervene and to put in place some measures, tax policies that will favor you. What are some of the key issues still there that government needs to deal with?
Well, one of the
key concern you have?
The concerns that we raised as a result of the free fall of the CD, had to do with our investment laws, because we thought in the investment laws there are a whole lot of loopholes in the laws, and I think it's about time government review those laws, because in the investment laws you just needed to provide $1 million. And then just pay a percentage of your stated capital at the Ghana Investment Promotion Authority, and then employ about 20 skilled Ghanaians. So we think that investment of $1 million should be, reviewed, and then.
So that's the threshold now.
That is the threshold now. That is the threshold now. If you want to do a retail trade, you just needed to provide that $1 million, either in equity or in cash, and then you are able to go through. And we think that is not good, because when you provide just that $1 million, then you are at liberty, to do anything that you like. And what we
but how is that, for instance, practically affecting you?
It affects us, because when you provide that $1 million, that's what I'm saying, that you have liberty to do anything. What we have realized is that some of the investors who are here, after providing that $1 million, do act as manufacturers' representative, and you'll be here, and then the goods will be shipped to them, and then they will just be selling and then feed on our scarce foreign exchange, send those monies back. So what we have asked government to do is to let them provide whatever money that will be used in doing their import for the year. Assuming the whole year, maybe you make an import of $1 million, $100 million, you have to bring that $100 million.
Okay, to
deposit
start,
it,
as
yes,
a threshold.
Deposit, yes, as a threshold. Deposit that money at Bank of Ghana, and that's when you need some for your imports, then
you can go for
then you can go for that money. Either they transfer it to your manufacturers or suppliers, and then they bring the goods, for you. We have also proffered to government that all these big supermarkets that are here, at least their shelves content should consist of 30% locally produced goods. If you go to the shops now, you see that all their shelves content are made up of foreign goods, and we think it is not in the best interest of the country. If now that government is saying government is going to embark on an industrialization agenda to make sure that our local manufacturers produce some of at least the commodities that we need, we think some of those commodities also must find itself on those foreign shops, so that if they are able to do that, I think it will ease the pressure on the sea, on the scarce foreign exchange.
Okay, but for Christmas, you are assuring Ghanaians that you are reducing your prices.
Definitely.
Your word to our viewers.
Oh, what I'm saying is, this Christmas, as a responsible association that is Guta, the onus lies on us.
So it's GPRTU that's not responsible.
Well, I haven't said that. I haven't said that. The onus lies on us, to appeal to our members to try as much as possible, to reduce their prices so that the Ghanaian consumer, can be able to make good purchases for the Yuletide.
And I'm grateful. Clement Boateng is the chairperson of the Abossey Spare Parts Dealers Association. And you're still with us here on The Pulse. We'll be back shortly. Please stay. Welcome back to The Pulse. The Economic and Organized Crime Office is investigating the importation of 200 luxury vehicles suspected to have been stolen from the United States and Canada. YOCO is working together with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and the Royal Canadian Police. Currently, they have retrieved 37 of the vehicles. Here's Deputy Head of Economic and Organized Crime Office, Nana Entry, with details.
In this case, over 2 months ago, it was set in motion per the analysis of the primary request and field verifications to convince ourselves. And we've convinced ourselves that those vehicles are in the system. For now, you can't see them in the garages, but they are in the country. They will be taken one after the other. It could span over a long period of time, but it doesn't matter. We are in the process of asking for special documents, special orders to do a publication of those suspected vehicles. We have their chasing numbers, and ask those in possession to voluntarily submit, failing which we will draw a plan to get all of them. Because you see, when we talk about a stolen item, it is not all the purchasers of items who have the full background of what has transpired prior to the purchase. Do you understand? Yes. So a garage owner may honestly believe that he is doing a genuine business. Now you go to pick the vehicles, you don't expect him to be happy. It is for that reason that we need a space of time for them to get the opportunity to come and show us why they think that those vehicles should not come under that description. And as soon as they convince us, there's a procedure to ensure that they are not unfairly. They should, as much as possible, try to do due diligence. The due diligence at their level may not be enough, because they would want, in fact, the purchaser knows that the vehicle was imported, he sees the import document, taxes were paid, he sees the tax document. He may not know that it's a stolen vehicle. At the end of this exercise, this office, in conjunction with other institutions like the Association of Vehicle Operators, will now come up with some of the things that the public must know regarding the implications of those purchases. Do you understand? For now, I cannot make a disclosure because some of them are things that we will use to explain to them the reason why they are stolen vehicles. In fact, most of the happenings may not be known to the purchasers. That's why we use the word innocent purchasers. Most of them may not be known to the garage operators. Hence, whoever made the request, that is our counterparts, Yoko will not sit here and succumb under pressure from them to make hasty decisions. We would make sure that we are satisfied that whatever we are doing falls within the remit of the law.
Well, so that's the indication there, but let's get more from the General Secretary of the Vehicle and Asset Dealers Association, Clifford Anto, is joining us via Zoom now. Thank you, sir, for your time. Vehicle purchasers have been urged to carry out some due diligence before they buy their vehicle. First of all, let's understand the process you go through before you acquire vehicles, especially from countries such as the US and Canada.
For the opportunity given me this afternoon. First of all, let me simply say that the statement issued by the gentleman who just spoke is false. He said 37 vehicles has been seized for now. I am saying the cars that have been seized are more than 37. That is the first clarification I just want to make. Number two, he also stated something that when a purchaser is going to purchase a car, either here or in America, you may not know whether the vehicle has already been stolen from somebody who is selling it to you or not.
And I guess that's why I'm asking about the processes.
Fine. The process is that if you see a vehicle, maybe on auction online, you can negotiate with the auctioneer. At the end of the day, if you think that the document that the person may provide to you, you are satisfied with it, and the vehicle, you will also make your proper inspection, and it's look like the way that you want it, you can go ahead and then buy them. Number two, we have our brothers and sisters also living abroad who purchase these vehicles and send them down here to us for sale. Number three, somebody also may go and then buy and come and give their car or vehicle to you at your garage also for sale. These are some of the ways that we get our vehicles here to sell in our market. But he also says something that when the vehicle that they suspect are something like 200, but at the moment they can't find them in the system, they can't find them in the market. So they are asking people to bring them voluntarily, those vehicles. So if you know the vehicle that you are talking about cannot be found in the system, why do you have to go to people's garages and then create this kind of fear and panic that you are taking their vehicle from their garages?
What do you suspect is going on?
Sorry?
What do you suspect may be happening?
As for that, they may be able to tell us, because when they went to the garages on last Friday, in fact, the fear and panic that they put in people was too much. People never suspected that. Some of them were even not at their various garages. The officers went there and talked to the garage boys, and the boys also told them that, oh, please, our bosses are not available. But the officers were not cooperative. They didn't accept that. They didn't understand them. They just took some of the vehicles away and asked them that, oh, when your bosses come, they should come. After that, they even indicated that they are from Iwoko. Fine, if you are from Iwoko, we are all, law-abiding citizens. None of these car dealers or nobody in this our union or association will shoot any criminal who is indulging in these criminal activities that we are saying. If that is indeed true, why do we have to, shoot people like that? We cannot shoot them. We will be exposing them by their own, criminal activities. But they should at least take their time and then do this exercise. Now, he also put a statement out there that when people are going to buy, they should make a due diligence before they go in for. When they said due diligence, what do you mean by this due diligence they are talking about now? Does it mean that the vehicle that they come to see at the garages, we should give all our documents to them to go and show the documents to local officers and then come and take our vehicle there and do the inspection that they want to do before the customer will come and buy? Who customer in this country do that follow this process before they buy the cars? So in fact, the whole exercise that they in fact undertook last Friday was not the best. It doesn't have business promotion in any way.
I've heard about this in a while. why is this exercise going on? Have you ever had this encounter with the security agency?
We did not have any encounter with them. When they also came, in fact, those who met them cooperated with them. But those that they didn't meet them and they met their garage boys were having some kind of, exchange of words and other things. But the security agents also did not take it kindly. At least they should have taken their time and explained matters to them. Even when you are reported to a police station and they said, oh, the police officer is coming for you. When the police officer comes to you, he will show his service number, he will show his identity card, he will tell you that if we reported to so-and-so police station, I'm so-and-so officer.
But I'm just wondering if by now you have engaged your members to be sure that you don't have an infiltration of some of these stolen vehicles into your system.
As a matter of fact, in every woman institution, there can be definitely a bad knot. And we have not even engaged them, even talking to them, and nobody is saying that, nobody's admitting that the cars or vehicles that they are selling are from those sources that the local officers are also complaining about. As I even speak to you, because of this issue, we handed over the issue to our lawyers, and they are following the case. And we know at the end of the day, we are going to be vindicated that the vehicles that they sell are not stolen vehicles.
Okay. You have a special message for Yoko on this?
Yes, I want to tell everybody that they should be very calm. They should take the whole exercise as, a very calm situation now where we are finding ourselves. Even though the officers are saying they are throwing a lot of news in the air that, we are going to pursue them, they should bring the documents and all that, but they should still be calm. Whoever thinks or whoever has any, dubious business doing underground, which we don't know. Fine, as for us, we don't know. But the ones that we know are the people that we are defending. No customer also, when our customers also are also coming. We are encouraging the customers that they should also take it kindly. They shouldn't panic. They shouldn't, entertain any fears. They should go to their garages, negotiate with their garage owners, negotiate with the car that they are interested in buying, and then buy them.
Are you scared? Are you scared or worried that this may affect the confidence in your market?
Exactly so, because if you put this information out there that there are stolen vehicles in the system, so the car dealers, are selling these stolen vehicles, who do you think that will come and buy? So we don't want such information to be circulated in the system at this period of time that we are entering Christmas. We don't want that. At least we have a leadership. If anything at all, they should have been called the leadership and inform us that this is the action or this is the situation that is on the ground, and this is the way that we want it to go. Some of us, even if we have the information, we could have even joined them that, this is the situation now. Our members, of course, should come on board because, the information is coming from Canada and America. It's not coming from Ghana officials here. So this is the information that they say they've received. So how do we go about it? Then we can be cooperative, like I said. Nobody is prepared to shield any criminal within this industry. We are prepared and we are ready to expose anybody who comes in with these criminal activities.
Okay, so since that didn't happen, will you engage Yoko in the coming days?
Come again?
Will you engage Yoko in the coming days? Because you're saying, you were not engaged from the start of the exercise.
In fact, they didn't invite us and they never informed us anything. So we are still, we've also given the case to our lawyers, pursue the case for us. And at the end of the day, like I said, I know we are going to vindicate it.
Clifford Ansu, I'm grateful that you've been able to speak to us here on The Pulse. Time now for Africa Connect. We're talking about the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. President Akufo-Addo has been making news. He's alleging that the government of neighboring Burkina Faso has given Russian mercenaries a mine as payment to help fight an insurgency in their country. The president, who was in Washington for the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, raised the claim at a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken that the Wagner Group, often linked to Russia and its state, is being compensated with a mine very close to Ghana's northern border. For those of you who missed out on that bilateral, here is a recap of what ensued when the president engaged the U.S. counterparts.
Very good occasion, but it's a particularly good occasion because we greatly value Ghana's leadership and your leadership in West Africa, the important efforts on regional security. We're strong partners, including on the UN Security Council, which we greatly value, partners for democracy and security in West Africa, and we greatly appreciate the peacekeeping contributions that Ghana makes, but also just more broadly your own leadership for peace, for security, for democracy. Many challenges, but we're grateful to actually be facing them together, and really pleased to have you here this week for the summit. So thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the time.
So, Mr. Secretary, thank you very much. We'll just thank the American government for the invitation to participate in this summit. I think it's a summit that's been long overdue. I believe it's the second. The last time was what, over 10 years ago? Yeah, perhaps we should be doing more. But it's good that it has happened. It gives us an opportunity to talk about many common threats and challenges that we have, which you've identified. And particularly for us, to be able to put into relief where we are. Yesterday I had I was part of an extremely useful meeting with the people from the Congress to come and talk about security matters. I believe that, Madam, you were there, you were part of the meeting. And its significance for us. And I think that beyond everything, that is a matter that I want to urge upon you. Today, Russian mercenaries are on our northern border. Burkina Faso has now entered into an arrangement to go along with Mali in employing the Wagner forces there. I believe a mine in southern Burkina has been allocated to them as a form of payment for their services. Prime Minister of Burkina Faso in the last 10 days has been in Moscow. And to have them operating on our northern border is particularly distressing for us in Ghana. Apart from not accepting the idea of great powers once again making Africa their theater of operation, we have a particular position that you know about over the Ukraine war, where we have been very, very vocal and upfront about condemning the invasion of Russia by Russia. And therefore, then now to have this group at our borders is a matter of some considerable disquiet and concern for us. We really like to have a privileged opportunity to talk about its implications and what we believe ought to be the case. This is what took place with the discussion in the Congress yesterday, which I found very fruitful. And I would like that the themes of that discussion should be the themes that we should continue to address. To what extent we can have you as a partner in confronting these threats. It is very important that ECOWAS and the West African area remains a democratic.
That's the vision or the view of the president. He's threatened about the decline of democracy in the SAB region. Let's bring in now Mutara Mumuni Mukhtar, Executive Director for the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism. It's a good time to be talking to you, Mukhtar, because you're just returning from a side engagement related to the US-Africa Summit. And I believe that obviously the issues of terrorism in the Sahel and the fact that the trend is moving to the coastal states is something that we need to foil. But for Ghana to be going to the extent of alleging that neighboring Burkina Faso is indeed bringing Russia closer to its borders, it's troubling, isn't it?
Well, thank you. I think that the reality is that the threat of violent extremism is getting more and more complex. And so we need to take it much more serious than we have ever been. And to hear the president talk about it at a summit like this is important, and it's great that he spoke about it. But I'm looking at the content and the language in which this conversation took place. And there's a difficulty in me looking at it in terms of the positive aspects of it. I think that we're too ambitious to be talking about it in the language we use or in the way we spoke about it. It is not the business of Ghana to be reporting Russia or Wagner forces to America. I think what we should do is to situate the conversation about our own security and how it relates to the regional context of security. I think that, you know, our president spoke about it in a manner that seemed to effectively make Ghana as an active ally with America against Russia, which I think within diplomatic circles, some people may be worried about how this is going. And, you know, clearly stating and declaring how we have been, you know, clear in condemning Russia. I think that the language could have been a bit more, you know, taking a more humble approach to dealing with it, because we still have huge challenges to contend with. And I think that the conversation could have been done differently from the way it went. Nonetheless, we are facing a serious security threat from a regional perspective, and that our borders continue to be sustained focus for counterterrorism work. And that we need to focus on, and that we need not to compromise on that.
You have the president speaking in the U.S. You don't pragmatically expect that he would say anything different, did you?
Well, as president, it is your job to keep your nation safe, stronger, you know, and also to deal with threats that you consider that could undermine your own security. How you do it is left to you. But as citizens, we have, you know, a role. We have opinions in how how these things happen. And I think that our president could have gone about it in a different way. In a different way, I mean, situating the conversation within the scope of Ghana as a nation, what we're doing, what support do we need, what sort of alliances do we need, you know, to ensure that we keep this space safe and, you know, democratic, as, you know, they spoke about it at the meeting.
Some say the president was just re-echoing what the West thinks about what's happening in Burkina Faso. For instance, days ago, I was speaking to the U.S. ambassador. She was clear about it, indicating that we don't need diplomacy in this and that the Wagner group is acting in the interest of the Russian state. Is that disputed? Or, I mean, is that something that many of you in civil society still have problems with?
I mean, there's no dispute that, you know, the Wagner forces are related to Russia, and in some circles, it's seen as an extension of official Russian presence in West Africa. And so there's no question, there's no doubt about that. What we should be focusing on is the implications of their presence here. Whether we like it or not, the traditional allies of West African governments have significantly been ineffective in dealing with the, you know, the serious challenge of violent extremism. So there's fatigue with dealing with this Western European, you know, partners. And there seems to be a growing, you know, support, goodwill for, you know, partners like Russia, no matter how unpopular they may seem. And so we have to look at the context in which this thing is taking place. Why are people or these governments preferring to go with Russian, you know, the Wagner forces? How did we come to this point? How do we ensure that we realign these partners to ensure that they get back on the track of democracy and get the right partners to let that happen, rather than seeking to project an image, you know, that seems to dismiss them or make them unpopular? I don't think that that is a tangent we have to go at this point. At this point, the truth and the reality is that Ghana is dealing with violent extremism. Violent extremism is closer to that than ever before. And our region has become more and more insecure than ever. We have to look at how do we ensure that we create the necessary effective alliances and partnerships and mobilize resources to ensure that we build resilience against it. If you speak in the context that our president spoke, you elevate the conversation into the political realm, which often does not lead to the practical activities that lead to, you know, ensuring that we defeat a threat like violent extremism.
Here's my take, that the president is likely to draw the Cold War closer to our borders. What's your take?
Exactly. You just said exactly what I should have said without saying all that I've said. Look, when you do what he has done, and I hope that, you know, subsequent conversations would sanitize the position of Ghana in this context. Other than that, we are effectively drawing ourselves as a belligerent force against Russia, against Russian forces and their interests here, which we do not want to do. We want to remain a nation that is focused on building its own structures of democracy and stability, and ensuring that there's room and opportunities for job creation and prosperity. You don't want to jam the gun and go talk about issues within the political realm that can polarize the environment. Already, we have failed in the Sahel. All the security programs we have instituted in the last 6-7 years have effectively failed to deal with terrorism. What we should be doing now is to relook at these measures we put in place in the Sahel. How do we ensure that we move away from the traditional combat measures, to look at it from a more practical perspective? The economic drivers, creating job opportunities, creating spaces for people in terms of marginalization, ethnic conflicts and chieftaincy conflict dotted across the entire sub-region. How do we deal with it? The conversation about Russian presence here is a very big political conversation. And the way we go about it is important to ensure that we do not undermine our international relations that can distract from what we should be doing to build the stability.
Beyond that, there's the ideological difference. Some say the president is being pragmatic. You have the Wagner Group active at our northern borders. We don't want an infiltration of some of these insurgent groups into our territory. I guess it's just fair that, knowing that this is a country that you have military cooperation with, it's not strange to ask the U.S. to partner a nation such as Ghana.
There is any demonstration of the intent of Russia to get into Ghana in terms of military, the Wagner forces in terms of military action. We haven't seen that. What we are seeing is nations officially proposing alliances and engaging with Wagner forces to help them, build stability in their countries, like we saw in Mali and we're seeing in Burkina Faso. Of course, it's very close to our border, and that proximity should be a worry to us. What we do there, what they do in Burkina Faso should worry us. But to the extent that they are focused on helping the junta, the military leadership in Burkina Faso, without any element of involvement in our affairs, I do not think that it is a right conversation to be, reporting them to America in the way we have done. I think that we have to sanitize the conversation to help.
And that ties into the very final leg of our conversation. The president earlier, before that engagement, asking other African countries to stop begging.
Well, that's an overambitious statement to make at this point. We all know it's exciting. It was exciting for us to reach that, that ideal that we should stop begging. That's a very, a Pan-Africanist ideal that everybody wish that we could have that. But if you say this kind of thing in a big way that you have said, and you are currently struggling to get an IMF loan, it's a very, very troubling, situation, to contend with. And I think that, I don't know, it's difficult to talk about this without talking politics. So I think I will just leave it at that.
Okay. You don't want to go into the politics of this, but beyond that, African countries are seeking to get more cooperation from the U.S. What's your own take about the 3-day high-level stakeholder engagements happening in the U.S.?
I think it's a very, typical of America. It's a very important, summit that brings all the, leaders together to re-examine their relations with Africa and look at it from the context of business and security and, even civil society. I had the opportunity to participate in a side event in terms of the role of civil society here in the Sahel and in West Africa. What it does is reaffirm the commitment of America and with all these partners in terms of their resolve, to deepen cooperation along the lines of trade, economics, and security. It's important for that to happen. They've always had these kinds of things happening. I think that what we have to look at as Africans is to have our own agenda. That is their agenda. They're seeking to look at how they re-engage with Africa in a more refreshing, more robust manner. How do we ensure that it inures to the benefit of Africans? Today, as we speak, we have failed in the Sahel, and it's largely along security, military cooperation areas. How do we go back to this summit, go to America, using this summit to say, hey, look, in the last 10 years, 12 years, we have effectively failed in dealing with this problem here. Here's our solution. Here are our suggestions in terms of how we deal with it. And then you make that proposal in a very strong manner. And more importantly, the proposal that is built along the lines of coalition of African leaders to ensure that you have a blueprint, you have a plan, and invite them to get it implemented. Other than that, it remains just one of the summits we've always had with America.
Okay, let's leave it here for now. Mukhtar Mumuni Mukhtar, Executive Director for the West Africa Center for Counter-Extremism, grateful for joining us on Africa Connect. Now, back into the country, a leading member of the coalition of NGOs against trafficking, Kwesi Johnson, says that it appears some opinion leaders and influential persons in communities along the Volta Lake are benefiting from the use of children for dangerous fishing activities on the lake. The reason they are not able to do much to eliminate the practice. His comment is coming on the back of the recent clashes between the police and residents of Dakope and a fishing community along the bank of the Volta Lake. The policemen, numbering 17, had gone to the community to rescue 21 children who were being used for dangerous fishing activities on the lake. As they arrived in the dead of the night at 10, somewhere around 1:30 a.m., the residents attacked them. Maxwell Abuba was there and now reports.
So time check, it's 12:35 a.m. We are on our way to Dakope, where the children will be rescued. It's a very bumpy, undulating, and very rough road. It has been like this for the past 1 hour. We are going in the dead of the night, at the dead of the night, because this is the time that the suspects and the children who are going to be rescued are likely sleeping, because they'll be waking up at dawn to go fishing, and this is the good time to swoop in, on them. So that's what we're doing. We're in a convoy of a vehicle of about 5 vehicles, together with personnel from the Ghana Police Service. We also have some social workers who are going to help in the processing of these children.
Many of the fishing communities along the banks of Lake Volta, where these children are usually trafficked to, are tucked away from the urban centers and away from the eyes of even law enforcement officers. The nearest police station to Dakope, where we visited, is the Dambai police station. It is a 2.5 hours journey with 2 hours of untarred road.
So we are now here in the Dakope community where the rescue operation will be taking place.
It's 1:30 a.m. and we are now in the Dakope community. Topless, muscular men, some of them in only boxer shorts, were standing outside waiting for the rescue team. It was as though a gong had been beaten for the community people to mobilize. The residents vowed they would not allow police officers to do their work. At this point, we were stopped from filming anything in the community. Some of the young men brought out car ties, threatening to burn alive police personnel. As their anger continued to rise and negotiation failed, it was time to retreat as we jumped into our cars and fled. But there were more obstacles on the way as some of the residents started burning ties in the middle of a narrow road. They pelted our cars with big stones, forcing me and another journalist to duck for cover. Please.
We arrived in this community around 1:30 a.m. and already the community people have mobilized, ready to pounce on the police personnel here. And this is one of the major factors militating against the fight against child trafficking. You can see all of them have ganged up in this fishing community, not allowing police personnel, to do their work. There's some community agitation going on right now with the residents.
Obisi bush, Mush the bush. Fire the bush. So that's a gunshot. Was it a gunshot?
No, somebody.
You're my leg. Oh, sorry. Was it a stone or a gunshot?
No, it was a stone. It was a stone.
Wow. Move. And you can see they are throwing stones at this point. And you can see the fire right in the middle of the road. The burning tires in the middle of the road. The police is also trying to disperse the agitated crowd.
More on this, joining us via phone now is Kwesi Johnson, a leading member of the coalition of NGOs against child trafficking. Johnson, you've worked in this space for a very long time. How often do you get such interferences by community folk?
Thank you. Yeah, Joy FM, and I say hello to you and the staff. I'll say that when it comes to crime pays when, it is not enforced. So it is not only in these communities that I would say there are interferences and also benefits to community leaders. Yeah, but wherever crime happens, there are people faceless who benefit from crime. That's why crime persists. Yeah, and I would say that in these communities along the Volta Lake and also other parts of Ghana, especially the coastal fishing belt, there are a lot of people who have nothing else to do but trafficking of human beings, especially children, to engage them in fishing, which is their preoccupation. That's their source of livelihood. So when you are going to take this away from them and they don't get alternatives, they will resist you. And moreover, these faceless people are not coming forward for you to recognize that these are the people who need to be trained in or given other alternative sources of livelihood, let alone train them and give it to them. So they will resist you, and that's what happened in the Dambai area of the OT region recently, when the law enforcement agencies went to enforce the law by rescuing child trafficking victims.
And you feel that some influential persons and opinion leaders may be part of this?
No, I won't say influential persons or opinion leaders are benefiting. Influential people will only come in when we start going the other way, which is not helping Ghana politics. But that's not what I'm implying here. Influential people, can be bought. When I say bought, very rich people, no matter where their source of income comes from, can corrupt chiefs. They donate at their funerals, they donate at the festivals. People don't question the source of income. So when they see these things happening and they know that it's this man, they'll plead for forgiveness or leniency when it comes to law enforcement.
All right, then.
So that's what I mean by influential people, but not per se they are the direct perpetrators. They sometimes intentionally or unintentionally are helping the perpetrator by closing their eyes or by benefiting from the largesse of the perpetrator.
Kwesi Johnson, I'm grateful for your time. He's leading a group of CSOs working against child trafficking. And as the NDC's internal race is heating up, one of the candidates for the party's general secretary position, Elvis Frianka, is asking the party's delegates to punish candidates that are fabricating stories in order to sway voters. According to him, shredding the party into pieces in the name of campaigning should not be tolerated by party members. He's been addressing a news conference earlier today.
When it gets to times like this in a campaign, that is where opponents who do not have any message and who see defeat staring them in the face resort to all kinds of underhand tricks. I have been a campaign manager virtually all my adult life. I have been a student leader. I know these tricks and understand them. And I just want to caution all of us, in this contest, that the enemy is the MPP. The enemy is not ourselves. And so let's forge ahead with a clean campaign. I believe that I've run the cleanest, most issue-based campaign in this election, focusing on the issues that are relevant to the needs and aspirations of our teaming party supporters and to the nation at large.
Old students of the Ghana National College have pledged to complement government's efforts by building a fully furnished science lab actually for their alma mater. The announcement was made by the president of the Old Students Association, Egbert Fable Jr., at the launch of the school's 75th anniversary held here in Accra. Mr. Fable says they are committed to the development of the school, and hence they will do everything in their power to see the school develop. There's more in this report.
The Ghana National College was established in July 1948 by Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. With a student population of 8, the school, which turns 75 in 2023, has a current student population of about 1,300. Launching the 75th anniversary celebration held in Accra, the national president of the Old Students Association, Egbert Fable Jr., said as part of the anniversary celebration, the old student will put up a fully furnished science laboratory and a couple of female washrooms for the school.
We have an interest in our school, and we commit and pledge to all present that that interest in our school will continue to the end of time. Do not say that we came, we saw, and realized the challenges you have in science education and learning in the school, and resolved that we'll raise funds to put up on an emergency basis that new science laboratory project that you see. Beyond that, we as Nananum have also seen the sanitary challenges that our girls face. And so again, if you look at the junior block, the old junior block and assembly hall complex, you will see that there is a 16-seater WC facility that is almost completed. And then abutting the old girls block or girls houses, that is Wardrew, Tridan, and El Sidazi, abutting that structure is also another 16-seater WC facility. That gives you 32.
He, however, called on the school authority to maintain all infrastructural projects.
Our expectation of the school administration is that whatever we give to the school, we expect them to be treasured and maintained very well.
The headmaster of the school, Joseph Atosapon, said the gift of a science lab by the old students will be a major boost for science education in the school. He also called on all old students to come on board to help develop the school.
It is the desire of the college to have a sufficient pipeline of students required to meet the 40-60 science-humanities ratio target envisaged by Ghana Education Service under the Education Strategic Plan, ESP 2018 to 2030. It is worthy of mention that the gift of a new science laboratory by Nananum to our college will be a game changer. This will promote an increase in enrollment of science students and ensure quality teaching and learning of science.
A committee was set up to plan the year-long celebration, which is on the theme 75 Years of Holistic Education, Nurturing Leaders for the 21st Century. Prince Kwame Kuduga's report for Joy News.
That's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I am Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com for updates. We'll see you again. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz. Stay on the Joy News channel.